Hello, this is Jeff from Studio 41 Gaming, and I am here today with a new Smite God Arena guide video. Haven't done one of these in a while, but as you see, we are talking about Neith, so let's get into how to play her. Alright, so as usual, we're going to start with the build that I use for items and whatnot, so let's get started. First in your build, you're going to want to go with Ninja Tabi. Pretty self-explanatory. Physical power, attack speed, movement speed. Well, it basically gives more attack speed than Warrior Tabi, and a little bit less physical power. But next, you want to go with Saise. I think that's how you pronounce it. It gives some physical lifesteal, attack speed, and some physical penetration. And it also gives you a passive that if you drop below 35% health, you gain a bunch of physical lifesteal for 5 seconds. Next, you want to go with Bloodforge. It gives a bunch of physical power and some more lifesteal. And on each successful basic attack, you get some more physical power and lifesteal. And next, you want to go with Saise. I think that's how you pronounce it. Gives a bunch of physical power and some more attack speed. But the passive is what makes this bad boy really good. And that is, on basic attack hits, deal physical damage equal to 4% of the target's maximum health. That only affects gods. Basically, that helps you do a lot more damage to people like tanks and warriors, and enemies that build a lot of health. Next, you want to go with Rage. Gives some physical power, and of course, really good crit chance. And then obviously with the passive, it gives you more critical strike chance when you don't crit, which then resets when you do crit. And then, last but not least, our old friend Mr. Deathbringer gives a ton of physical power, 20% critical strike chance, and increases your critical strike damage by 40%. And then, new to the game recently, we have Relics. Basically, they just replace actives. Basically, Purification, which takes the place of Purification beads, if you remember what those were. If you don't, then just get this anyway. Just takes away CC effects. And then you'll want to use Sprint. I'll go into why you want Sprint a little bit more in a couple seconds here. But definitely get these things. They cost nothing. It's really nice how they reworked actives. But let's go a little bit more into Neith's abilities now. Start with her passive, which is sets a broken weave at the last location an enemy god dies. And it gives her abilities secondary effects when they're used on the broken weaves. Basically, it just gives her abilities a little bit more power. Personally, I actually don't make use of them that much. She's perfectly fine without them, but if you have the chance to make use of one, definitely do it. First, her first ability is Spirit Arrow. It fires a shot that passes through everything, roots enemies. It's also really good for taking down minions, so definitely make use of that. And basically, it just deals with it. When it's used by a broken weave, it deals double damage, or the damage that it did, and applies the root to all enemies in the area around where the broken weave was. Her next ability is Unravel. Basically, it's really good for healing and just reduces enemies' attack speed. It also is really good for broken weaves because it heals you even more. This isn't that good of an ability, I'll be honest. It's probably her weakest ability. It's really good for healing, and that's about all it's really good for. The attack speed debuff isn't bad, but it's only good if you're facing other hunters. Backflip is very good. It's definitely one of Neith's best abilities. It gets you away from enemies really well and slows the enemies that are right in front of you when you use it, and also lays a broken weave, so you can backflip and then use a spirit arrow right after to do a lot of damage in a hurry. And then we have Neith's most famous ability, the Snipe. You charge up an arrow and fire it across the entire map, seeking the enemy god or whatnot through obstacles and everything. And as you can see, it can do a lot of damage. And with our physical power being pretty decent, this bad boy can absolutely nuke. It is disgustingly powerful at late game. Definitely make sure to use it. Overall, Neith's God Builder, I feel the default is perfectly fine, but I definitely wouldn't blame you if you wanted to build Spirit Arrow up really quick and go for your ult, obviously, whenever you can't choose Spirit Arrow. And if you still can't choose Spirit Arrow, go for backflip so you can get away from enemies a lot better. Go Unravel probably late game because you're already getting a lot of lifesteal from your build, so healing a whole lot more really isn't necessary. It's only good for its attack speed debuff, and again, that's only really good when you're dueling another hunter. So, I mean, if you're facing an assassin, chances are you're going to backflip and try and get away anyway, so that's what I would do. So, either leave it as it is or build Spirit Arrow really quick, because it is definitely your second best ability. But let's go into some details on how to play Neith a little bit more with some gameplay. So playing Neith is actually pretty straightforward. She's definitely one of the easier gods to play. Basically, gameplay style, early game, you're probably going to be starving for mana a good bit. Neith's abilities can actually be pretty mana expensive early game. So if you are playing with a mage like Hebo, or even possibly Poseidon, if you want to snatch mana at the beginning, it probably wouldn't be a horrible idea, but obviously, if you have a mage that really likes mana, like a Cuckoo or someone, I wouldn't do that. So you're going to want to go typically attack speed for your buff at the beginning of the game and throughout the game. But most of the time as Neith, you're not really going to be switching your gameplay style up a whole lot throughout the game. Basically, when you engage, use your Spirit Arrow to CC. Just hit with basic attacks, basically. That's all you're going to pretty much be doing. You're not going to snipe them unless they escape and are trying to run back to base. And then be careful, because the snipe can be blocked by other enemy gods that jump in the way to try and take the shot for their teammate who would probably be killed by it. But obviously a good way to get away from enemies is to use your backflip. Backflip can also backflip over Ymir's walls. I actually wasn't sure about that till I did it in the gameplay. So if you see Ymir drop a wall behind you, you can definitely backflip over it and probably piss him off. But backflip can be very nice. Just make sure it's not on cooldown when you're freaking trying to get away. Because if you're doing that, you're going to have to pop sprint, which is why I put sprint in that build, so you have a way to try and escape if backflip is on cooldown. But Neith, with her lifesteal and whatnot with this build, is going to be very hard to kill. If you're not lifestealing with basic attacks, you can pop your 2 ability to get some big life heals back to you from enemy gods and minions. You're not going to be out-dueled by any other hunter with this build, simply due to the fact, as long as you're hitting, you're going to probably heal faster than they can do damage unless they start critting every hit, which is about impossible. Because you can pop Unravel and whatnot to slow their attack speed. And then, at least when you have Rage and Deathbringer, late game, you're going to be almost unstoppable. And if they try and run, you can snipe them. Unless Snipe's on cooldown, where you might have to pop sprint and chase. But the only thing I can really say about this, gameplay-wise, in terms of balancing your pacing and whatnot, is basically just play a little safe early game. Then once you get Bloodforge and Rage, you can definitely get more aggressive. it's pretty straightforward. Neith is pretty easy to play overall. So, thanks for watching, and I may or may not be back with another Smite video in about 4 months.